So some Republican leaders are speaking out against North Carolina Congressman Madison Cawthorn. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy says the freshman representative lost his trust following controversial comments Cawthorn made recently on a podcast. The 26-year-old congressman claimed he was invited to a, quote, orgy with colleagues, his words, not mine, and witnessed a lawmaker snorting cocaine. Cawthorn is a member of the Education and Labor and the Veterans Affairs Committees. And Nick Oshner is the chief investigative reporter for WBTV, the CBS station in Charlotte. He joins me now. Nick, it's great to see you. Happy Monday. Thanks for spending some time with us. And we wanted to bring you into this because, of course, this is the latest in several outlandish claims by the congressman over recent years. But what makes this one so different?
Well, hello and happy Monday to you, Ed. I think, first of all, Madison Cawthorn has already lost the favorability of most North Carolina Republicans here at home. So unlike previous missteps, we might charitably call them, that he's made on Capitol Hill, he'd had the support of the folks in his district and Republicans here in North Carolina to kind of backstop him and prop him up a little bit. This time, after these remarks about the orgy and cocaine, I think, as you put it, what we saw was his own home state Senator Tom Tillis come out and first distance himself from Cawthorn and criticize him, and then just a day after that endorse one of Cawthorn's primary challengers, State Senator Chuck Edwards. So actually, at least here at home in North Carolina, the biggest difference is he's lost all of his home state support.
And how critical is that going to be in a GOP primary when we look across the country, we see professional statewide Republicans endorse somebody, and usually that guy or woman doesn't do as well? Is there reason to believe that the state political apparatus getting behind State Senator Chuck Edwards, that's going to make a big difference in terms of potentially booting Cawthorn?
Well, the real problem is that if it were just Madison Cawthorn and just Senator Chuck Edwards, they might, have a really tight or pretty close race. The problem is you've got Chuck Edwards challenging Cawthorn and then like three other candidates, some of whom, even though they don't have a lot of name ID, are actually well-funded. There's one candidate who put about $1 million in the race. And so the advantage might end up going to Cawthorn. He only needs 30% plus one vote to clear the primary. And because it's divided like this, he's got such high name ID, whether famous or infamous, everyone knows who he is, and that may end up being to his benefit.
And of course, the other potential thing to his benefit is that he's been a tireless defender of former President Trump and is expected to be at an upcoming rally for the former president outside of Raleigh. Who else is slated to speak at that event, and how much of a factor is the former president in this primary?
Yeah, I think that's it was a notable thing when Donald Trump announced his upcoming rally here in North Carolina, and it included Madison Cawthorn. Really, the impetus for coming, at least seemingly anyways, is that former President Trump has also endorsed Republican Congressman Ted Budd, who's running for the Senate seat in a contested primary that's being vacated by longtime U.S. Senator Richard Burr. So Budd, in kind of a surprise move, got the endorsement of Trump early on in this primary race. Ted Budd's closest primary rival for the Republican primary is former Republican Governor Pat McCrory. And so Trump's coming here to try to do what he can to boost Ted Budd's chances in the May primary. Of course, Budd has certainly increased in the polls since that endorsement from Trump, but it's also come with a lot of money from the Club for Growth. And when we look statewide, it's not clear that the endorsement of Donald Trump was the magic bullet that everyone thought it might be for Ted Budd, or thought it could be for Ted Budd. Also in Madison Cawthorn's primary in the 11th district, you also have someone running to Cawthorn's right somewhat that Cawthorn had previously endorsed when Cawthorn was going to run in a different congressional district before the North Carolina maps got redrawn. And so again, it's not super clear, at least not to me anyways, how much of an impact Donald Trump's endorsement and support is going to have. Of course, it can't hurt.
Well, and you bring up the other point, because, and that's the irony of this local matters segment. These are the things that really can matter, especially in congressional primaries. One of the factors for Cawthorn, as you alluded to, and for many other lawmakers across the country who've had to make this calculation depending on the shape of their congressional district, is that he actually had left the district at the start of the year to fight in a different part of the state, and has now come back to his original district. And that's part of what's ticking off Republicans in his neck of the woods, right?
Oh, that's what's really upset Republicans across the state. In fact, the district that he had moved into in the previous version of the North Carolina congressional maps was a district that had basically been drawn by Republican House Speaker Tim Moore, that Speaker Moore was going to run in. And so he comes in, kind of elbows out the speaker, upsets the order of things, if you will. But even as he did that, the Republicans I were talking to told me, they said, look, if the courts order a redraw of the maps, this district suddenly does not become Republican friendly. And so he's going to have to go back to his current district where he's going to, kind of have egg on his face. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
So let's review here. You're a young congressman who's alleging that your colleagues have participated in interesting sexual proclivities and drug use. You've ticked off just about every Republican in your state because you were messing around with a different district, came back to it, ticked off the House Speaker. You've now ticked off the 2 senators who are Republican, neither of them supporting you. You think that's enough to potentially knock him out, but there's still time to go, and it's 2022, and primaries have a funny way of working themselves out these days, don't they?
Yeah, I was about to say he might still win despite all of that. Again, it's 30% +1 to clear a primary in North Carolina. It's a divided field, and everyone knows his name. Right.
Now, more importantly, Tar Heels play tonight. Who were you rooting for on Saturday, Duke or the Tar Heels?
That's a loaded question here in North Carolina. You'll notice what color shirt I'm wearing today, though.
There you go. There you go. Nick Oshner with WBTV in Charlotte, staying neutral in sports and in politics. We appreciate you taking some time.
Thanks a lot.